Are you afraid of me?
Why would I be afraid of you?
Welcome to Decoding TV's coverage of Cape Fear on Apple TV, based off the novel The Executioners and both films of the same name. Nick Antosca's version of Cape Fear comes to Apple TV with a few significant changes on the story. This time, Anna Boden, played by Amy Adams, and Tom Boden, played by Patrick Wilson, are a power couple who seemingly have everything. A lovely house and a nice family in Savannah, Georgia. Tom and Anna are both attorneys, and Anna works for the Savannah Justice League Project, which helps to release innocent people from prison who have been convicted of crimes. But their peace is soon shattered when Javier Bardem, playing Max Cady, is released from prison after serving 17 years for the murder of his pregnant wife. Turns out maybe he didn't actually do it because somebody confessed to the crime, Max's mistress. Anna represented Max during trial and convinced him to plead guilty, but shortly after trial, Anna got together with Tom, casting doubt on what her true motivations during the trial actually were. Is Max trying to destroy Anna's life now that he's been freed from jail? And what is the nature of Max's guilt anyway? These are some of the new questions that the show asks. There are going to be 10 episodes of Cape Fear. Patrick has watched 2 episodes. I've watched 3. We will not spoil anything from future episodes, but I will spoil things through episode 3 of the show. I will also reveal some things from the Martin Scorsese version of the film. I won't talk about like the ending or stuff, but I will make some comparisons. So just want to let you know where we are. All that said, Patrick Klepek, what'd you think of the first couple episodes of Cape Fear?
I don't know how I feel about this show. I want to introduce something called perhaps the presumed innocent line.
Okay.
There's something called the Mendoza line in baseball, which is a shorthand for like minimum viability to be like a contributor. And presumed innocent, or is it presumed innocent or innocence? Innocent is essentially a show that is trashy, full of plot holes, but was just deliciously fun. Like just a fun little meal to chew up and work. And I love recommending that show to people. But like there's in many places the show is sort of dumb as rocks. But it's so much fun and it's so well shot and so well acted that the whirlwind of going through it was worth the ride. And I recommend it to other folks, even if the ending gets a little wonky. Cape Fear seems to be operating in a similar sort of space, which is like it's immaculately shot. The budget looks enormous. We've got a suite of wonderful actors who are still there doing some goddamn acting in this show.
They're definitely acting a lot. You know,
definitely acting a lot. But to what end and in service of what is a question that is not answered for me in 2 episodes. I'll be curious to hear from you and whether you feel that's any better answered in a 3rd episode. It has an extremely campy feel, yet is played completely deadpan, extremely serious. You're sort of convinced at the start that, maybe the title card, which is super campy, straight out of the 80s, which is just delightful. I love it every single time it comes up. Is that the vibe we're going for? And sometimes the show is. Sometimes like, I guess we're leaning into this being a little cheesy and campy. And other times, no, we're playing this completely straight. The tones of this show are all over the place. It frequently does not feel like the actors are acting in the same show. It feels like they were all given different notes on what the tone is and how over the top we're going to be. So I'm compelled. I've watched 2 and my wife's into it and she wants to keep watching. So I'll probably keep going down the Cape Fear path.
I didn't think you would keep going on this one. So maybe we can do a bonus episode. Yeah.
If it was just me, I think I'd probably be content with getting off the Cape Fear track. But I think my wife is very taken by the capital A acting happening in this show. And again, like, we as a family spend time occasionally in Hilton Head, which is kind of just down the street from Savannah, Georgia. We're going to be in Savannah in a couple of weeks. So I have an affinity for the place. So there's a little bit kind of all going on there that would compel us specifically to keep watching. If it was just me though, David, I'm pretty sure this is where I'd get off with Cape Fear because I don't think it makes a particularly convincing argument in its opening episodes for how this possibly justifies 10 episodes of story.
Yeah.
Like I could imagine a Cape Fear movie, which is what they did before. I haven't seen those films.
Twice.
I don't know where this story goes.
Yeah.
But there's nothing in the 2 episodes that suggests there's going to be enough extra added that does not feel like complete fluff to get this story across the finish line over 10 episodes. But It sounds like you're in a similar boat with me, if not more negative. But I'm curious to hear what you make of Cape Fear, having seen one more episode than I have.
I think you know how like sometimes as time goes on, like it feels like couples, like people who are married, they look physically more like each other. I feel like the more you and I podcast together, the more like simpatico we get on our viewpoints. Because I think I completely agree with you. Here's the thing: I've seen the Martin Scorsese version of KPR. I have not seen the Robert Mitchum one, nor have I read The Executioners, the book on which the movie was based. But the big question for me is, what new did this show have to add? Like, did this show have a compelling reason to exist, or is it just telling the same story again, but for like a modern era? I mean, it's been what 30 years since the last Cape Fear movie came out.
I think so, for a story that like that is a reasonable amount of time.
That's reasonable, totally reasonable.
Like revisit a story, even if it doesn't even have that much more to add.
Correct. And I will say that as I rewatched Martin Scorsese's Cape Fear recently, it did seem to me as though some of those relationships were pretty underdeveloped. Like, as an example, they have their marriage is kind of on the rocks in the movie, but it feels like very, very sudden and abrupt the way some of those things happen in the movie. And the relationship with the daughter is not well developed at all. And so I'm like, oh, okay, like you have some time to kind of develop some of these relationships a little bit more. And I do think that is one thing that this show does add. But does it have anything else beyond that? That it is hard for me to come up with it, honestly. And I think that there are a few ways that this show does things differently than the movie that I want to get into momentarily. But I will say that one of the things that was really terrifying about the original Cape Fear movie, not the original Cape Fear movie, the Scorsese Cape Fear movie, is that the idea is like Max Cady is terrorizing his family, but everything he's doing is within the bounds of the law, right? Like he's going right up to the border of their property and just chilling there and like sitting there and they're like, police, and there's a guy sitting on the edge of my property. Sorry, we can't do anything. He's not on your property, right? Like he's spent his time in prison like reading up about the law and figuring out how to torment this family in the most effective way possible. And so far, this show doesn't even hint at any of that, as far as I can tell. Like,
my suspicion is, I do not know what happens in the book, the two adaptations. I have not seen beyond the 2 episodes.
Yeah.
My suspicion is there must be a subversion of the expectation of how this story is going to play out in this adaptation that is building upon the fact that it is there's a legacy of this story being told, and that one way you could go about what's an interesting is like, well, if you've seen previous versions, you think this is how the story is going to go, but actually it ends up going in a different direction and truly embracing being, an adaptation, a retelling, a reinterpretation. Maybe that's not what actually happened. It's just an elongated version of the story already being told. But I think it's the fact that it hasn't pinned any of those details down early in the show feels like because the show doesn't want to play its cards, but I need it to play more of its cards so I just know what kind of show I'm watching. And to be, these are full hour-long episodes, right? So it's like you're watching almost a movie length, every single time, and I still feel like they're sketching out the boundaries of what we're playing with in a way that is not satisfying. It feels more like you're just purposely not telling me information that
let me press on that a little bit, Patrick.
Sure.
I mean, isn't the story of this guy coming back from the past and tormenting Amy Adams and her family, like that alone is not enough to keep you going, right? Like there are like mysteries of what exactly he did and what exactly happened at trial and what exactly Anna Boden did, right? Like there's all these mysteries that will be answered through the course of the show, presumably, but like that basic story, like, because that is told of like Javier Bardem is back. He's messing things up. Maybe
that's the thing. It's the maybe part. Like I don't really. I think it's played much more ambiguous in this. Again, I haven't seen the pre. But
like, Well, so let's get to it. Sure. I will tell you that in the show, the Apple TV show, it is in fact much more ambiguous as to whether Max Cady actually did a bunch of this stuff. Like in the movie, there is no doubt that he did the crime for which he was convicted, and there is no doubt that he is the one that's tormenting the family. Here, there is lots of doubt on both of those things, right? And so it's like, okay, that could be interesting. Now, I will tell you, Patrick Klepek, if those are just like head fake red herrings that turn out to be nothing, that's going to be really disappointing, and I'll feel like that is a colossal waste of time. Right.
Yes. And that's my worry. That like that's why my hope is there's a commitment to doing a version or a different version of this story.
Why is it important to you that it's different if you haven't seen the original? Do you just feel like you just don't like being jerked around with a story like this?
Yes, because as a first time, like maybe it'll be more interesting if you're not familiar with the story, and so the kind of will they or won't they of the story, the elongation of that can be more interesting to you. But for me, I want the story to just get along. Like,
get on with it, please.
But also it's that alongside just incredible goofiness. Please stop showing me the glitchy TV like feed stuff. That's not based in reality. Like whatever explanation they come up for that,
right?
I'm going to laugh at. That is the most like magic wand TV bullshit. Like it's every time like, why is the security camera getting a little glitch? That's not how hacking works. Like the security system isn't going like, ow, I'm under attack, like help. It's not like screaming like it's the old animated
Patrick,
show reboot.
You don't know that. Maybe Max Cady became a computer genius when he was away for 17 years and he just figured out how to hack into things, you know,
but like
and make it look just a little weird as like it does in the show.
Makes it look like it's coming out of it looks like haunted. It looks like this should be in a supernatural story more than it should be in something. I can buy that he taught himself how to program, like doing security stuff. Like that makes sense to me. Spent his time in the academic minds behind bars. But the idea that it's just it's goofy.
Fair enough. Is there anything else along those lines that you find goofy in the show, by the way? I'll say one thing that I find somewhat goofy. First of all, I know people that work in organizations like the Savannah Justice League Project that are in the show, and this show makes it seem a lot more glamorous than it is in real life. Like, it is very unwelcome, the things that these people are doing, right? Like, they are basically saying to an entire system, hey, you got this wrong. And there's a whole institutional edifice that is meant to stop people from doing that, to be like, oh, we convicted the wrong person? Like, that's impossible, right? Because if people don't believe the system works, then horrible things will happen. So this show hasn't really shown that side of that job yet. And it's more about, hey, we're celebrating the people we got out, and we're having galas with millionaires and stuff like that. And getting profiled in the Savannah Times and so on and so forth. That it's just like, I don't know that that's a particularly realistic depiction of it, but maybe it is. I don't, if you work for or know one of these people, comment, let us know. decodingtv@gmail.com. Is this an accurate depiction of working for one of those things? That is a whole new component of the show, by the way. Like in the Cape Fear movie, they didn't do that at all. It was also, by the way, the male person in the relationship that screwed over Max Cady. It was Nick Nolte's character that screwed over Max Cady. But yeah, also, by the way, in the movie, I think it was just, they only had one daughter, if I recall correctly. And here they have two kids, and they are both kind of messed up in different ways, right? The son has some really severe behavioral issues, and the daughter is feeling invisible because all the attention is focused on the son, which is a very common dynamic as far as I understand. Patrick Klepek, this is, again, like I said, a fairly new dynamic in this show that wasn't in the films. How did you think about the familial dynamics in the TV show Cape Fear?
It worked. That works much better. Like, I think the two actors I've not seen them in anything as far as I can tell, but I think they sell the relationship pretty well, and it's like much more interesting than like, what did mom and dad get up to? What dark secret are they hiding? Like, I buy their complicated relationship much more than I kind of buy a lot of other. They're playing very naturalistic, whereas like, especially like Javier Bardem, like Javier's playing like it's like such an over the top performance. It's in line with the music, like the cue music for the title card. That's the movie that he's in. I get it. Like the big like strings, like he is playing like a campy, over the top character, and like I buy it completely, and he's a lot of fun to watch. So the siblings work quite well for me, actually. Like I don't mind their plot line and the dynamics that are playing out between the two of them. The problem I have is this show every 30 seconds wants to play like front door opened, back floodlight on. And you want to tell me, this is not a spoiler, but like there's a moment where the son, they're concerned about his well-being. He just goes out the front door and starts walking away. You're telling me this security system, maybe Javier hacked into it. And it's like, when he goes out the front door, it's not going to make a noise. It's not going to make a security system noise when he leaves out the front door, even though the show keeps telling us that it's going to make noises announcing everything that happens around this house. Anyway.
Fair enough. But yeah, I would say it works really well. And it sounds like you are already bored of the, what did they do? Did he do the thing? You know, like this is already boring to you, even though you're only 2 episodes into the show.
Well, I mean, and I think it's part of it because I just have a better sense of the dynamics at play between the brother and sister than I do with like the parents. And like, it's just easier to grasp onto. Like, I think the show does an okay job of depicting like what it means to get sucked in online, like to have a completely different online life that your parents don't understand, they have no insight into. You can have a whole different, you know, there's a bit where she, Amy Adams, tricks her son into unlocking the Face ID on her phone. That I thought was pretty clever. I actually think, we'll see where it goes, but I do think the show's depiction of a kid struggling, and I don't want to get into. There's a reason he is sort of socially ostracized in the show. That is, when you find out what it is, like, well, yeah, I mean, yeah, you deserve to be socially ostracized for that, but that makes for a really unique sort of relationship that you have as an audience member, where like a kid who has like perhaps like drug addiction issues, behavioral issues, sort of like helicoptery parents, and then when it's revealed why. Like he's sort of ostracized socially. You're like, ooh, yeah, that's bad, dude. Like you shouldn't have done. Like it's just he's an interesting character. I think his depiction of trying to show what it means to sort of be ostracized in real life and then lose yourself online, and then having a very caring sister, like doing the best that she can to at least be there for him in a way that his parents can't. It's kind of. I'm not saying that the parents in this show are role models, but it is the case that. No matter how good your parents are, like a sibling may have access to another sibling in a way that parents, no matter how like good they are, just cannot relate to you on. And so I think finding all of that is working much more for me. And frankly, if that wasn't there, I think I'd probably be a little more frustrated with the show than I am now.
Fair enough. I want to point out, by the way, that I believe it's Bernard Herrmann's score that is being used, and it's the same score that was used in the Martin Scorsese film as well, and now it is being used in the Apple TV. It's amazing, but also it does not bestow confidence that you're trying to do something new with the story when you use the same score that has been used 2 other times in the past.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good though. Like every time it hits, I'm like, we used to be a country. Like this used to be common. You would watch a movie, the title card would hit, and there'd be some incredibly cool little ditty that plays that sets such a fun tone for what you're about to watch. And I think it feels mostly like someone was like, no, that's cool. Like, we'll just keep it, even though it doesn't feel like it matches the show that I'm watching.
It's like how they use the Game of Thrones theme song for House of the Dragon too. They're like, we already have a good theme song. We don't need a new one. So one of the new interesting dynamics in this Cape Fear is that Max Cady and Anna Boden their lives are much more intertwined in this version, because for reasons that honestly pass my understanding, the head of the Savannah Justice League Project, played by CCH Pounder, says, hey, this Max Cady guy, this guy that probably hates you for whatever set of reasons because you didn't get him out of jail or didn't even try or whatever, he's useful to our cause. So let me just put these 2 characters together as often as I humanly can and expect nothing bad to happen from that. That's the kind of stuff that I think kind of strains my credulity a little bit of like, really? However, to its credit, that is a dynamic that is completely absent in the Martin Scorsese movie of like Max Cady is like involved in like the business and like theoretically helping. I'm like, whoa! Like I think it's the first episode, he shows up and he helps them raise a bunch of money at this big gala. And it's like, wow, like that's kind of interesting because that never happened in the Martin Scorsese version. Where it turns out it's like more complicated. Like the Scorsese version of Cape Fear depicts Robert De Niro as Max Cady as this kind of almost supernatural force that's just coming for this family and like about to destroy them. He's like a storm that is going to completely envelop everything and you will not be able to see a way out of, right? And this version of Max Cady is much more complicated. It's like, oh, he's actually kind of helping. Amy Adams' character actually might have like some things in common with this guy, or he might be like the son might be like really into him for whatever reason. And, like it's just like really complicated. And then of course there's all that stuff we said about whether Max Cady actually did the crime, which do you have an opinion on whether it's going to be revealed that Max Cady actually did the crime? Because I will say in the what do you call it? In the Martin Scorsese film, there is no doubt. Like Max Cady definitely did the crime. Whereas here, I'm 3 episodes in, and it is plausible that the show will make it so that Max Cady didn't do anything. And if that's true, I would then say, okay, I'm clapping if you can't hear in the podcast. Bravo, show. Bravo. Like, okay, cool. Like you actually had a new take on this. That's interesting. What is your opinion on whether Max Cady did both either the original crime or any of the horrible things that have been happening to this family since?
I wish I could say I believe the show would have the courage of its convictions to commit to the subversive version of it, because that would make the most interesting version of the show, which is the tweak to Amy Adams' character, in which you are fighting on, in theory, fighting on the behalf of folks who are being committed to grave injustice by the justice system. What if you were complicit in that? Now obviously there's this whole secret that's yet to drop that I don't know about, but take it on face value, right? Like that.
Yeah.
You submit, like your life's work was built around, putting people in jail or removing them from jail. Like, what if you were forced to confront the duality, like the fact that like one version of your life, like you made the wrong decision. You may have made it with the best of intentions in mind. Like the justice system isn't perfect, even in the best possible scenarios. But the fact someone having to reckon with, I did that to a person, and how do I work towards forgiveness? Or like, I don't know, like that could be an interesting show, because then of course she's going to cast all sorts of suspicion and darken light on any actions or interactions she has with him. And well, as a result of his time in the incarceral state, of course he's like hardened and kind of fucked up. Like it's not a system really built to rehabilitate in the way that it's pitched. So how do you like there's this version of that show that sounds really interesting. I'm not confident that it's that show, and I feel much more inclined that it's going to be ultimately he still did it. But I think two things can be true. He did it, and her suspicions over, but he didn't do all the ancillary stuff. Mm-hmm. But she thinks he's done all the ancillary stuff. But that there's actually been other factors at work, perhaps individuals that are taking advantage of the situation, the dynamics to make something happen. There's some mysterious woman in green, right?
We find out who that is in episode 3. I'm going to talk about that a little bit. But I think that's a great point. I will say that there is an action scene at the beginning of episode 2 that felt pornographic to me. Like, you know what I'm talking about when he...
Yeah, the show doesn't justify its level of violence, and I'm not squeamish.
And it does it in such a kind of shocking and sensationalistic way that makes me take the show less seriously. Like, is the show trying to make a deep statement about the nature of... Because it's that scene, in my opinion, is meant to rev you up. It's like, we want to watch Max Cady, like, beat these guys to death, Now, maybe the show will subvert that later on, right? But I think, like, when we saw the flashback to Max Cady in prison and he, like, beats those guys to death, I'm like, I was really disappointed because, I mean, that's a badass scene and he does some cool stuff. But also, I'm like, I don't really know if I could take the show that seriously, like, after that scene. It
doesn't feel... it feels out of step in the show that I'm watching. You know what I mean? Like it's I don't think the show necessarily There's multiple instances of some pretty intense violence in the show. That fight scene at the beginning of episode 2 is the most egregious, but there's multiple instances where my wife and I have gone like, and like I like going but it actually doesn't feel like it's I don't know what it's serving in the story.
What is the point of this?
It feels gratuitous.
I will say that the Scorsese Cape Fear is also incredibly graphic, and shockingly so. There's some moments from that movie that still shocked me when I watched it recently. And so, and by the way, Nick Antosca, I believe, has said that this will be a darker, bleaker, and even more upsetting version of that story.
Okay.
So I'm curious, like, how far down they're going to go. But yeah, the movie opens with a very shocking scene of self-harm, and it only progresses from there. Now, I am going to talk about some stuff that happens in episode 3. And I will say, Patrick Klepek, that in episode 3, something happened that made me say, oh, shit, at my TV.
Okay.
And that was at the very end of episode 3. You find out this strange woman that's been following all these people around in a kind of mask with like a green hoodie or raincoat or whatever. She's kind of been stalking all the characters, and you're wondering who she is. And I at first I thought it was like the mistress from the first scene that shot herself, and it's like, oh, she actually survived shooting herself in the head twice, and that's why she has the mask on, is to cover her injuries. But it turns out, Patrick, that who it is I don't actually know who the character is, but as of having watched episode 3, that character is played by Juliette Lewis, who is the daughter character, who played the daughter character in Martin Scorsese's Cape Fear movie. Now,
wow,
this is a new version of the story. So she's not. I don't think she's playing the same character, because like in that movie, like Max Cady had just gotten out of jail while she was a kid. But I was shocked. I was like, holy shit. Like, I can't believe they got Juliette Lewis.
Yeah.
And like, they kept it under wraps, I think. Like, it was not super public that she was in this one. So I was like, okay. And but okay. So just the fan service of, hey, we got Juliette Lewis, that is not enough to impress me. In fact, that's usually quite annoying. But what was interesting is she left this videotape for Max Cady that he played on his TV in his brand new house. And then Max Cady's reaction was terror and distress. He was like scared. He was upset. And it was like, wow, Max Cady is on the back foot. This might be a really different take on Max Cady, because in the original, I keep saying the original. It's the Martin Scorsese version. Max Cady is not on the back foot. He continues to be like this huge force of nature for most of the film.
Right.
And now he's like, oh, wow, there's somebody who can get the better of Max Cady in this one.
Interesting.
I'm upset because it's like that might have just given me enough reason to keep watching at least a few more episodes. So, and Nick Antosca has said he doesn't want to do too many references to the other films, but this is the score is a big one, and then this is a big one. So Patrick Klepek, it sounds like you're going to keep watching this one, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Right. I'm going to keep watching it too then, and then I think we will try to do a bonus episode when we get to the end of the series, right? But
yeah,
I do not think we will cover this week to week, but we will be covering this when we get to the season 1 finale of Cape Fear. So look forward to that. Patrick, any closing thoughts?
I'd say the only thing we could do is like each week, like a very upsetting, violent act that occurred in this week's Cape Fear. We'll break it down with you this week as we talk about him shoving a guy's head into a weight machine.
I'm also just going to put this out there. Like, we've already seen Javier Bardem play literally the scariest serial killer that has ever been put to film.
Yeah.
In Anton Chigurh in No Country for Old Men. Like, and he's kind of playing, he's playing obviously a very different character here, but nothing he does in this show is scarier than Anton Chigurh, in my opinion. Patrick, would you agree with that?
Yes.
And so it's kind of like a bit of a come down to watch that. All that said, he does have a take, and you can decide whether or not it's any good. But I wouldn't say Patrick Klepek and I love the show, but I guess we like it enough or are intrigued enough to keep watching. But I think we both also have a really bad feeling that it's going to end up being disappointing. So yes. We will see if that is borne out. Hey everyone, David Chen here. Thank you so much for watching that video from Decoding TV. If you want to get an audio version of the show, all you got to do is go to podcast.decodingtv.com. And if you want to support what we do, get ad-free episodes of the podcast and also bonus episodes of the podcast, go to decodingtv.com and become a paid member. Of course, you can also like and subscribe for more. We appreciate it. Thanks. See you later.